Hi there, my name is Aoife McDonald and I'm a registered dietitian. And today I am recording a short video for Kilkenny Libraries as part of their Healthy Ireland at Your Library programme. Today's video is all about eating to lower cholesterol levels. So just to give you a bit of background about me before we get started. So as I said, I'm a dietitian. I've been a dietitian for over 8 years and I've studied in the UK and Ireland. I've worked in a number of different areas over the last couple of years in terms of private practice, in the hospital, and doing workplace health and well-being. So that's a little bit about me. So now to get into the talk and talking about heart health and what we can do to improve our heart health. So I just wanted to, first of all, start off with a bit about cholesterol, what cholesterol actually is, and in the next slide, we'll talk about cholesterol levels and the numbers that we should be paying attention to. So in terms of what cholesterol actually is, so when we talk about cholesterol, we're referring to fat that is circulating around our body in our blood. So we know that if we have too much cholesterol in the blood, that it can over time kind of build up and stick to the walls of our arteries and form a plaque. And over time, then that can continue to build and cause a blocking, which can lead to heart attack or stroke. So as you can see in the diagram here on the right, it's kind of showing you over time, gradually as this plaque starts to build up, that the blood vessel becomes shut off where, where problems can happen there. So what we're trying to do is minimize the risk of this happening through following a heart healthy diet alongside a healthy lifestyle as well. So you've probably all heard about cholesterol levels and maybe have had your cholesterol levels checked as well. So this table basically shows the breakdown of kind of what our total cholesterol is, and another fat there called triglycerides. That is one that we should be paying attention to also. So what are normal healthy cholesterol levels? So total cholesterol there, you can see that we ideally want this to be under 5. So when you get your cholesterol level done, generally people are talking about that total cholesterol number. So they might say their cholesterol is 7, 8, 4, whatever it might be. But ideally we're looking for that to be less than 5. If it's over 5, then we really want to be looking at getting that down. Your total cholesterol is made up of your LDL and HDL cholesterol, and add those two numbers together, that's where you get your total cholesterol. So it can be useful when you get your cholesterol results that you ask your doctor for a breakdown of how much of it is LDL and how much of it is HDL. LDL cholesterol, ideally we're looking for that to be 3 or less. This type of cholesterol is often referred to as bad cholesterol, so we don't want the levels of this to be too high. The other type of cholesterol then is HDL cholesterol, also known as the good cholesterol, and we want to have at least a number of 1 or more for men and 1.2 or more for women. So that's kind of a breakdown of what the total cholesterol actually means. Then there's another type of fat circulating in the blood called triglycerides. So this is a number as well that will be tested when you get your bloods done to look at cholesterol. We know that high levels of triglycerides circulating in the blood are linked with a higher risk of heart disease. So ideally, knowing what this number is as well is important for protecting your heart health. So ideally, we're looking for this number to be less than 1.8. So they're just some numbers to have in mind. If you have access to recent blood tests or you're getting them done, have a look at what your numbers are for these specific factors. So when it comes to reducing cholesterol, this slide is all about foods we want to reduce, and then the next slide is all about foods that we want to eat more of. So we know that those that have a higher intake of saturated fat have a higher cholesterol generally and have a higher risk of things like heart disease. So what we know is that by reducing the amount of saturated fat we're eating, this can help to lower our cholesterol and therefore lower our risk of heart disease. So we'll kind of go through the different foods listed here. So ideally wanting to reduce down these foods. So lots of foods are high in saturated fat. So you can see there things like your fatty meats, pizza, so like your takeaways and stuff like that, sausage rolls, cakes, biscuits, bacon, pastries, butter, cheese as well, stuff like that. You have kind of your red meat or your very fatty meats there will be high in saturated fat. And then the top right corner there is actually coconut oil. So coconut oil is actually very high in saturated fat. For a while there, it's kind of been promoted as a heart healthy food, but we know actually that it has more saturated fat than butter. So we really don't want to be increasing your intake of coconut oil for our heart health. So being careful with that to only use it sparingly. So have a look at all the foods listed here. So these, as I said, are some of the common foods that we eat that are high in saturated fat. So what we want to do is try to reduce these foods down to have them more occasionally and increase our intake of foods that we know are associated with lowering correct cholesterol and lowering our risk of heart disease. So that's kind of covered now in this slide. So this slide, nice and colourful, it's representing all the foods that we know are going to help to lower our cholesterol levels. Sometimes when we talk about nutrition and heart health, it can seem very negative in terms of stopping eating a lot of foods, but actually we know that there's actually so many different foods that we can actually start to eat more of and that we will enjoy that actually help to benefit our health as well. So there is kind of lots of delicious foods here that we can eat more of. So I'll run through some of these. So have a look at them and see are these foods that you currently eat regularly at the moment. These are some foods there that you rarely eat or that you never eat, or maybe you've never really tried before. And if so, that can be a good place to start in terms of trying to eat more of these heart healthy foods. So we'll kind of run through some of the different foods there on this slide. So we have things like tofu. So tofu here, and this is soya milk. So we know that soya products have actually been shown to be really beneficial for helping to lower our cholesterol levels. So that might be including tofu in your meal. It might be having soya yogurt or soya milk or edamame beans, anything like that. Having them regularly has been shown to help to reduce cholesterol levels. So these can be a good option to include if you don't have them already. We have a bowl of oats here with kind of some fruit and nut in it, but basically a type of fiber called beta glucan, which we find within oats and also within barley, have been kind of associated with lowering our cholesterol levels. So having oats every day in some form has actually been shown to be really beneficial for lowering our cholesterol. So I know not everyone likes porridge, so it doesn't have to be necessarily in porridge. It could be oats that you're having in a muesli, for example. It could be an oat cracker that you're having, some that you make yourself that contains oats. So it doesn't necessarily have to be porridge, but anything kind of oat-based really is a good way of getting in these types of fibers into your diet, which can help to lower your cholesterol. We have kind of various fruits and vegetables sprinkled across this slide as well. So like the normal advice, we're trying to get in at least 5 portions of fruit and veg every day. This has lots of benefits for heart health as well. Naturally, our fruits and vegetables, don't really have any fat in them, so they're beneficial for that reason. And they're very, good in terms of fiber and antioxidants as well, so they can have an anti-inflammatory effect in the body. So we do want to prioritize having more of them and having them with all our meals if we can. Healthy fats are another really important thing to include. So there's some kind of healthy fat sources included here on the slide. So like we said on the last slide, in terms of reducing fat, we want to reduce saturated fat, but we want to increase the kind of the healthy fats in our diet, which would be your unsaturated fats. So some examples here would be things like your oils. So like something like olive oil, rapeseed oil, for example. You've avocados, we have our oily fish there, and we have nuts and seeds there as well. So these are all examples of kind of heart healthy fats that we want to include more of. And naturally, these foods are very high in fiber as well. So they have benefits for digestive health too. So these are kind of things to add to our diets. We also have kind of pasta there, but that's kind of referring to any grains, I guess, and ensuring that they're kind of the brown version. So if you're having potatoes, try to have the skins on them for extra fiber. If you're having pasta or rice, go for the brown versions and so on. Same with bread. These tend to be just kind of more heart healthy. So generally a heart healthy diet tends to be higher in fiber. So it's good for heart health as well as digestive health. Then just the last couple of foods to run through there. kind of top right corner, we have a selection of different beans, lentils, chickpeas, and so on. So these are really good in terms of lowering cholesterol because they're high in a type of fiber called soluble fiber, and this can help with managing cholesterol levels. So as well, we would often use beans, lentils, etc., as a substitute for meat at times. So meat tends to be, especially red meat, tends to be, higher in saturated fat. So naturally, by reducing, your red meat and replacing some of that red meat with your plant sources of protein, that can help to reduce your overall saturated fat intake. So trying to have more, some plant-based meals or some meals that are, half plant-based and half meat, for example, can be a good way to gradually reduce red meat intake in particular and eat more kind of plant-based foods. And finally, we have kind of the Proactive or the Benecol or products like that that contain our plant sterols that help to reduce cholesterol as well. So any kind of product you get like that will have instructions in terms of like how much you need to eat per day to help lower cholesterol. So generally, like if you do find that your cholesterol is high, then looking at reducing the saturated fat, which we covered on the previous slide, and adding in much more of the foods that we see on this slide here can make a massive difference alongside other lifestyle changes, such as, reducing alcohol, stopping smoking, exercising, and so on. So you all kind of work together to reduce your overall risk of any heart conditions. So I just wanted to include this quick slide here around building our meals, I guess. So like what I was talking about with getting in more different types of food into the diet, this is kind of just meant to represent an example of someone's dinner plate in terms of the different food groups that might be on it. So as you can see, the left-hand side there, we're looking for about half of our meal to be fruit or veg or salad. So naturally, we're filling up on those colorful foods, those high fiber foods, those kind of low fat foods really, and really filling up on those within our meal. Then you can see on the top right corner there, we have our protein-rich foods. So we want about a quarter of our meal to be protein. So it'd be, trying to include a different type of protein throughout the week. So sometimes it might be fish, it might be a small bit of red meat. It could be a plant-based meal like your tofu, your lentils, your beans. It could be like your fish, your chicken, your turkey, and so on, or egg. So different kind of options there in terms of like a protein source, but try to include a protein source with all our meals as well to keep us full and help to maintain muscle mass as well, particularly as we age. And then the kind of bottom right corner there is around kind of the fiber side of things again. So trying to include carbohydrates that are higher in fiber, as these tend to be better for a long-term health and tend to release the energy more slowly into our bloodstream. So they tend to be kind of more filling and more slowly digested. So they're kind of good to include as well. So that's just to give you a rough idea in terms of a dinner plate and the kind of proportions of the different food groups there on the plate. And finally, I just wanted to give a few tips on increasing fiber intake. So like I've said a couple of times throughout the talk today, we know that typically a heart healthy diet is a higher fiber diet, which then is kind of a gut healthy or digestive health friendly diet. So these are some tips to incorporate some of the foods that we just talked about into your diet more easily. So just to run through a couple of points there. So including a fruit or a vegetable or some type of salad with every meal and snack you're having. So like we said, if we're aiming to get, 5 portions of fruit and veg every day, then ideally we need to be having a fruit or a vegetable with every meal or every snack we're having, if we do want to hit that target of 5 per day. So think about your usual meals at the moment, whether you're doing that or whether some of your meals or some of the snacks that you're having, you could look at adding to it in terms of adding in something like that. Swapping your grains to high fiber. So if you currently have white bread, try to swap to brown. Oat, for example, at breakfast is a good option, or other high fiber cereals. If you're having pasta, instead of the white pasta, go for the whole wheat or the brown pasta to kind of up the fiber there. In terms of incorporating seeds into your diet, a lot of people I speak to would say they just don't know how to use seeds in their diet. They've never have experience with including them. So there's lots of easy ways we can look at adding seeds into our diet. So whether you have whole seeds, like mixed seeds, or even ground seeds, you'd often get like ground chia seed or ground flax seed. So it's like a powder that we can add into different recipes and meals. So it could be things like soups, into cereal, into yogurt, into stew, anything like that, smoothies and so on. There's lots of different ways that we can include things like seeds more in our diet. Including nuts as part of your snack each day. So nuts we know are really, really good when it comes to lowering cholesterol, and they're kind of well researched for that purpose. So trying to include some nuts every day in some capacity. So having it as part of your snack can be a good idea. Or if you find them a little bit, hard to chew or a bit dry, then, chop them up, add them into recipes if you're making something, add them into your yogurt, add them into your porridge in the morning. So find different ways that you can incorporate more of these healthy fats and foods into your diet. Eating more plant-based proteins, so lentils, chickpeas, beans. So you can buy these dried and you can cook them yourself. Or if you're short on time, you can get them tinned where they're cooked already. You just have to drain them and add them into your meal. So that can be like a really quick and easy way of incorporating more of them into your diet. Ensuring that you drink plenty of water when you're increasing your fiber intake. So if you are looking to increase your fiber intake, make sure you do it slowly and also make sure you're drinking plenty of fluid. So if you do have a lower water intake at the moment, try to increase your water intake first and then start gradually increasing your fiber intake over time. So that's a quick summary of eating for cholesterol levels while supporting digestive health. So I hope that you got some tips from that presentation. I have my contact details there on the screen. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. And thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon.